Here's something your history teacher never told you. Those barbarians who destroyed Rome, they were the same people who would later preserve Christianity through the Dark Ages, spark the Protestant Reformation, and create the languages that dominate the modern world. We're talking about Gomer's kids, the Celts and Germans. Genesis 10:2-3 in the Berean Standard Bible names them the sons of Japheth, Gomer, the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. Boring genealogy? Nope. These names launched the peoples who would reshape Western civilization. Let me blow your mind real quick. When Jews today talk about Ashkenazi Jews, they're using Gomer's grandson's name. Medieval Jewish scholars identified Ashkenaz with Germany. They were so certain about this connection that it became permanent. Every time someone says Ashkenazi, they're unknowingly confirming Genesis 10. That's how deeply embedded these biblical names are in real history. Josephus, the ancient Jewish historian, tells us Gomer's descendants were called Sumerians by the Greeks and Assyrians. These weren't primitive cavemen. They were sophisticated warriors who swept across Europe in waves. One branch became the Celts, those crazy warriors who sacked Rome in 390 BC, settled from Turkey to Ireland, and terrified everyone with their headhunting habits. Another branch became the Germanic tribes, who eventually conquered Rome and inherited its empire. The Celts were absolutely insane, and I mean that as a compliment. They invented chainmail armor. They developed iron technology that revolutionized warfare. Their art, those intricate spirals and knots you see on Irish stuff, appears across thousands of miles, showing a unified culture from ancient Turkey, Galatia. Yes, Paul's Galatians were Celts, all the way to Ireland. They had female warriors who scared Roman legions. Boudica, a Celtic queen, nearly kicked Rome out of Britain. But here's where it gets beautiful. When Christianity arrived, these wild, head-hunting Celts became the most devoted Christians you've ever seen. Ireland, which Rome never conquered, became known as the Island of Saints and Scholars. When barbarians were destroying Roman civilization, Irish monks were preserving it. They saved classical literature, copied biblical manuscripts, and kept learning alive. The Book of Kells, those illuminated gospels that look like they were made by angels, created by Celtic monks who used their traditional art to glorify God. The Germanic tribes followed a different but equally amazing path. They started as Rome's worst nightmare. Remember Hermann destroying 3 Roman legions in the Teutoburg forest? But when they finally conquered Rome, something unexpected happened. Instead of destroying Christianity, they adopted it. The Franks became the defenders of the Pope. The Anglo-Saxons produced missionaries who converted their pagan cousins back in Germany. The Visigoths gave us Gothic architecture, those cathedrals reaching toward heaven. Togarmah, another of Gomer's sons, settled in Armenia and eastern Turkey. Armenians still call themselves the House of Togarmah. They became the first nation to officially adopt Christianity in 301 AD. Before Rome, despite being surrounded by Islamic nations for 1,300 years, they maintained their Christian faith. That's not survival, that's a miracle. When ISIS was destroying Christian communities, Armenian churches that had stood for 1,700 years were targeted. Gomer's descendants were still standing for Christ. The linguistic legacy is staggering. Celtic languages preserved Indo-European features that help scholars understand the original language family. Germanic languages gave us English, the world's current lingua franca. Every scientific paper, international business deal, and social media post in English exists because Gomer's descendants developed these linguistic tools. The internet literally runs on Germanic linguistic infrastructure. But we need to address something dark. The Nazis hijacked Germanic heritage for their racist ideology. They twisted history, fabricated connections, and used Gomer's legacy for evil. This was Satan corrupting something good. True Germanic heritage includes law. The word law itself is Germanic. Hospitality and courage in battle for righteous causes. Modern Germany's rejection of Nazism and embrace of humanitarian values honors their true heritage far better than the Third Reich ever did. The contribution of Gomer's descendants to Christianity is unmatched among Japheth's sons. They gave us the printing press. Gutenberg was German, making the Bible available to everyone. They gave us the Protestant Reformation. Luther was German, Calvin was French, both Germanic peoples. They gave us amazing hymns and missionary movements that spread the gospel globally. Here's what this means for you. First, God can transform anyone. The same Celts who collected heads became monks who collected souls for Christ. Second, your heritage matters but doesn't determine your destiny. Gomer's descendants could have remained pagan warriors. Instead, they chose to champion Christ. Third, God uses cultural gifts for his glory. Celtic art, Germanic organization, Armenian persistence, all became tools for the kingdom. So next time you see Celtic crosses in Ireland, Gothic cathedrals in Germany, or read about Armenian Christians maintaining faith through persecution, remember you're seeing Gomer's legacy. These aren't just historical curiosities. They're testimonies to how God transforms peoples and cultures, from barbarian to saint, from destroyer to defender, from pagan to Protestant reformer. That's the power of the gospel working through Gomer's line. And if God can do that with headhunting Celts and Rome-destroying Germans, he can transform anyone. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.